Now we're ready. All right, we're about T minus 2 minutes. T minus 2 minutes. Use the restroom. High five your next door neighbor for doing such a good job at eating lunch. It's over by the door. I'm gently reminding them to come back. I did. I reminded just a second ago. Getting warm because it's cold in here. Is it warm outside? Or is it cold? Is it?
It's going to be really nice tomorrow. It's only going to be 75 outside.
75 now?
So they say.
Supposed to be in the 60s tomorrow, right?
Don't say that. I don't like it. Well, my body doesn't like it because I hurt all over. Oh. But I will like it because I don't like it.
That's 77.
Ooh, well. No, I don't like cold. I don't like hot. I don't like cold. They say to sleep, reading a magazine, the best way to sleep is every night. I had the air conditioning on 68 last night and the ceiling fan going because I was dying. My run was probably like 3.
We're all together again, we're here, we're all together again, we're here. Who knows when we'll be all together again, thinking all together again, we're here. That was, oh, sorry, we had campfire last night, not tonight, not today. Does anyone want to start our second session in a word of prayer? Andrew, thank you so much for volunteering. I don't know, did you volunteer too, Uncle Vaughn? Either one. Andrew. We'll get you a microphone. I always surprise Rich with all these wonderful things that I want him to do, like get us a microphone. So.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the time we have to spend together. Lord, bless us in our discussion and our learning, that our minds would be prompted with good things, with wisdom, with new ideas, and that we'd be receptive, we'd be humble, and we'd be open to them. Once again, thank you for this time, and please bless us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is our moment of truth. We're going to answer these questions, and depending on these questions, we're either going to come back at 5 o'clock or we're going to keep going with the class, right? Do we think that this idea of simplifying our church, not our gospel, simplifying our church is something that we want to explore more? Do we feel like it's something that could be of benefit? Anyone have any thoughts or ideas about that? We'll get to that. So if you're excited about the teasers, then wait for the class and say you want the class. Okay. Go ahead, Sherry.
Okay. I forgot what I was going to say. Must be after lunch. I guess it depends on what we eliminate, right? Because I mean, I would definitely not want to eliminate my Sunday school class. Definitely not. But maybe somebody else would definitely not want to eliminate children's choir because that's their passion. Maybe somebody else wouldn't want to eliminate women's department because that's their passion. So I don't see how you start eliminating things. It seems like people should just choose, unless the pastor and pastorate or people in the lead team are overwhelmed and they can't show up, they have to delegate or something. As long as we follow a purpose and a goal, why can't, and then we have people passionately leading, why do we have to eliminate?
I love that you asked that because that lets me know we have a little bit of fear. Like, I'm not going to be asking to do anything, right? I'm just telling you what's in the book. But it seems like if we come and adopt to this, we feel like we're going to get rid of every single thing, and that's not the case. That's not what the idea of the book is. It's not come and slash everything and you only get to do 3 things. That's not what this is about. So that part is definitely a part of the book that we're going to be able to do that. The other piece I will tell you, not related to that. In a library, they want you to keep your books only about 3/4 full, all the shelves to be about 3/4 full, because they want it to look like it keeps it more busy, it keeps the books more fluctuating, it keeps everything more actively involved as far as being a part of it. So when we talk about how we want it full, in the library world, if your library bookshelf is really, really full and all it has is books, then people can't find what they need. And so our goal is for us to be able to take a look at what we have, to be critical about it. Yes, you have the ideas, and no, I don't think Sunday school is on the cutting block, but for us to be able to take a hard look at what we're doing in our church to find out what can we or what should we or do we need to eliminate something so that we can get better circulation. Bob.
You know, put another way, the book makes the point that when you get to the point of having a mission statement, then you can match every activity that goes on in the church against that statement. If it furthers the statement, it makes the cut. If it doesn't further the statement, now that's a hard decision to make. I'm not saying it's not, but that's the successful churches have a real focus. And if activities are going on that don't help toward the focus, you cut them. Now you've got to have a mission statement for you got to know where you're headed, and then somebody's got to make those decisions. It's tough, but if you feel overwhelmed, I don't know if we feel overwhelmed, but if you do, then that's the way you make that decision.
Sarah.
Another thing it says in the book is it isn't just that the program is successful as far as like numbers or like people are coming, so that must mean that this is a program that is successful. It's what are the results of that. They give the example of like a like a Christmas pageant kind of thing where people come and go through the booths and you tell a Christmas story and everybody loves it, and they bring in all the animals and bring in, you know, people in costume, and they work for months to prepare this. But then what are the results of it? It's something that the branch did, or the church did, that was a tradition, and everyone loved it because it was their favorite thing to do at Christmas. But it wasn't, not one single new member came. Not, you know, maybe some people from the community came and then they left, and it didn't actually, so it's not saying that some of the programs are, they're telling a good story or they're presenting a good message, but if they're not actually bringing a result, then you have to consider, is it something being done out of tradition or something that people enjoy at the church but isn't actually bringing disciples, if that makes sense. I don't know. It made sense to me.
Pass it over.
Oh, sorry.
Something, all those emojis you had earlier, they were all so pretty, and I loved all of them, but I couldn't remember all of them, and I couldn't put them all on my grid. It was too much. I could appreciate the few that I could put down, and I remembered them. They stayed in my memory. They stayed with me. And I feel like the efforts of the church can be that way. I I would prefer to have the energy and passion that someone is putting into something that is not growing our church. I'd rather have that energy and passion put into a project that will be growing our church. And it is difficult to give up something that you love. And so it's something that I think that the branch needs to be very serious about, whether we're going to do that or not, because we do have a limited amount of energy. We just do. And we need to be putting all of our energies into building up the city of Zion, and doing things that are effective, which pruning can be rough. So that's all I have to say.
The book does say people are gonna not be happy. And that's part of the success of it, is because there are things that people are going to feel like, gosh, we have to have this. Eric, who is one of the authors, in his church, they used to have Mother's Day out, and they canceled it. The moms were really unhappy. They didn't like it. They said some people still aren't even talking to them, but they realized they need to be able to narrow it down. And what happened, because they got rid of a program that was a good program that the people loved, it grew all the other areas, and they've actually grown their church. Whereas when they had that program, they weren't growing the church, because those people could focus their time and their energy on other things. Now, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, so we're going to do an activity that doesn't have anything to do with that. But I want you to know, as much as you feel fear of it, let's finish the presentation, and then we can talk about that. Because today, we're not deciding we're getting rid of junior church. We're not deciding we're getting rid of Kingdom Kids. We're not getting rid of the prayer. We aren't making any of those decisions, although maybe Andrew over there wants to get rid of something. Well, whatever it is that we do. I don't even know what it's called. Kingdom Kids, and what's the other one called? And junior church. Yeah, oh yeah, Andrew doesn't want us to get rid of that either. So we're not going to talk about what we're eliminating, because this is not about eliminating. This is about drawing our eyes and focusing on what's going to happen. And if our church isn't growing as much as we love and cling on to everything that we want to love and we want to cling on to, we're not going to. I love chocolate. I love sugar. I love ice cream. None of those things are going to help me lose weight. Unless I exercise 5,000 miles, and then I'm still going to eat more chocolate to accommodate that. And then I'm going to put chips with it because I like salt too. So just bear with us. Don't think I'm coming after you, because I'm really not. All I'm doing is doing a book report. That's all I'm doing today. Did you want to say something, Ken?
You know, recently there have been a number of things that I would have liked to have gone to, but my cup was already full. Okay, I know a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago or so, they were talking about a community activity, getting food and that kind of thing to communities. I remember Julie's class, which I would have loved to have gone to, but I just felt overwhelmed. I didn't feel that I could. But on the other hand, if there had been a class offered where I could deepen my prayer life and learn how to pray and feel that I was really praying, I would have made the time for that. And that's really a critical difference for me here. It is, there are things that are nice to go to, and there are things that are critical for my spiritual growth. And one of the things we're looking at, I think, with this is we want activities that will deepen our relationship with the Lord, that will deepen our relationship with one another. Those are the kind of activities that I will figure out a way to get to. The others are just frustration because I don't really have the time to participate. So for that reason, I think it's a great idea to look at it without knowing in advance, we're going to cut this, we're going to cut this, we're going to cut this. Nevertheless, the concept is right, to deepen and broaden our relationships and our spiritual health, rather than adding one more thing to the cup that's already full.
Okay. I'll give you one more. I am not a marketer. I hate to sell things. I don't like anybody to feel like I'm trying to get them to buy something that I might not fully believe in. But I want you to take a look at your shoe. Your shoe probably, by the way, Jack, we have similar shoes. Your shoe salesperson is not going to always have the same shoe, right? They take a look at what's selling and what's not selling, and then they take and they adjust their shoe. It's still a shoe, still goes on your foot, still what you need, but it's still a bigger and a better, or a shoe that you feel like you need, that you need to buy to be able to create it. And in the reverse, we're not going to make it bigger and better, but we are going to make it better. And the way that we make it better is by taking a look at it. How can we still generate sales? In church terms, how can we still generate and want people to come to our church? And if what we're doing now is not working, just like if what they're doing on a shoe is not selling, they have to make a change. And if we are not bringing people into our congregation, and we're not growing our congregation, and people aren't wanting to grow and come here, and we don't have every single chair full, we still need to evaluate what are we doing and what can we do so that we can get every single chair filled. And what can we do to make the activities that people find so important to them, what can we do to make their desire to be here much more desirous than where they are going? And I'm not talking church, I'm just talking anything in general. Ben?
Concerning our activities, I think that we have a number of activities that aren't explicitly labeled this way, but are fundamentally designed to appeal to retirees. And that's fine. Those are good activities for the retirees to have. And the trouble is, when you got young folks who are just starting out, just starting to have kids, or are needing to get married, they have different needs than the retirees have. And trying to sort of, maybe not intentionally, but trying to pressure those young people into going to all the stuff that the church has, that's, and then ranking the programs on how well attended they are across all the age groups, that's really not a good approach. So I think what we really want, the best thing, is to be able to have lots of good activities for retirees, available for the retirees, without pressuring the young people to go to a bunch of stuff that really isn't made for them, but be able to target the young people into stuff that really is made for them, but then at the same time without dividing the church, because that's another problem is the, so balancing all this is really hard and is complex to do. And I'm not saying exactly what we should do, except I would say this: when an activity is designed around the schedule and needs of retirees, it's okay if only retirees go to it, as long as we don't, as long as we're not trying to pressure everybody else to go to it. You know what I'm saying?
Before we put the cart before the horse, let's put the book before the book. I have a book. It's called Zoom, and we're going to do an activity in just a second, which will require you to get up. I know that we have more than 31 people here, so I'm going to trust that you will just go to the pile that has the least amount of things. But over there on those two tables, there are these black pieces of paper with little plastic covers. Some are green and some are yellow. Just so you know, the green one is a complete copy of the book, and the yellow is a complete copy of the book. So the goal is that everybody in the yellow group reads the story and puts the pages in order, and everybody who's in the green group reads the story and puts the story in order. Okay? It doesn't have any words, just pictures. So our goal is everybody's going to stand up and go get one and maybe two, because there might not be 60 people here, but everybody's going to get one or two, and if you get two, make sure it's the same color, because we don't want you in two separate groups. And I'm going to give you some time to put the story in order. Does everyone understand what's going to happen? So you get a piece of paper, you look at it, you talk with your group, and you decide where, if you're page 1 or you're page 2 or you're page 3 or you're page 4, and then you get in order and read the story after you have it in order. I didn't say it was going to be easy. I'm a teacher. I'm not going to make it easy for you.
So each person gets a page.
Everybody gets 1 page, and you hold up that page and you talk to the people in your group, and you decide what order your book page goes in the story. It's not going to be, well, it will be hard to start, but it won't be hard officially. Maybe some of the younger people want to split into 2. Because they're looking like, yeah, let's get up and go. And the older people are like, I don't really know what I'm doing. So over there, go ahead and get it. I am going to tell you no cheating, but those of the people that are online, if they want to see the book, I have a QR code that has the book. None of you in this room are allowed to scan that QR code. So none of you, none of you, none of you. So go ahead, every single person, go over and get a copy. Get 1. Get 1, get 2, however it is, either yellow or green, sorry, I don't mean to hit you. And then, not yet. Yeah. Yellow people come to the center, green people can go to the back. So if you have green, go to the back. If you have yellow, come here. You're probably going to need to stand for this.
You're making us feel like we're in school.
I am a teacher. All the pages have to be gone. Yellow people, come on over here to the center. There's a lot of room. If you have yellow on the side, come over here. I guess they don't want to come over here. That's fine. Hey, Andrew, bring the yellow people over here so you can work in the center here. There's a little more room. If she wants to sit here and hang out, that's fine. Hi, baby.
Sure been a good girl today, young lady.
Love you.
Sit down.
She can't sit down. She's in charge of everything. She sits down, the whole thing.
Do you want to walk with me? I have a microphone on, so I have to go work. Do you want to come work with me, or do you want to stay sitting? Come with me? Okay, let's go. We'll hold hands.
So right now we're going to put the earth down. So if anyone has a zoomed in version of the earth. So hold up earth and you're holding the earth picture. Here's a picture of earth. Here's a picture of earth. We have another earth. Any more earth? Okay, so I think it looks like.
I can't not. I had another one too, but I'm not doing it today. So, but this one's not one that you've seen. This one is. Do you want to go up there with everybody? Do you want me to go get your bag? Do you want your bag? We can go get your bag if you want. Oh no, they have class up there. We can't go up there.
doing? Just putting on laps? That's all right. Finding pieces and parts.
Got to go this way. I got to go this way. There's a baby. Annabelle, did you see the baby? Is he so cute? This is Annabelle.
Annabelle? Love that name.
She's my cousin. Her mom is my first cousin, so she's my first cousin once removed. Yeah. Good job, Scott. Team green is done. How are we doing, Team yellow?
All the groups about it and discussing what's on the
Step over it, Annabelle.
packing this around. So soon? Ah. Which one's got to go to soccer? Yeah, that's why he was looking over the fence at us.
And then here's the city that shows that. Here's that. But how do we connect to the island? Yeah, there's perfect. This gets us to the Arizona. That was great. But this island is where. So he's looking at the card. Yeah, want me to have the card first?
He's bored on his vacation. But yet he's got a cruise ship.
Yes. Good job. They're still finishing up. If you want to have a seat, we'll get started in just a second.
The roosters, should they go with the farm over here? We got pigs.
How about the rooster?
But so that, Andrew, that is the postcard.
Oh, okay.
That's connected. It's just.
You've made all these pictures.
No, this is a book. I cut up a book. This is a real book.
Well, my granddaughter works at Nallen as a step teacher.
Oh, yeah?
So we get this is free.
Oh, that's it. Yep.
Okay, I think we
I
got
do
it.
have one question.
Yeah.
Is that part of that rooster or is that something
That
else?
is part of the boat.
Okay.
Because that's this part right here.
Okay.
That would be tricky.
I think we have it. If everybody wants to look down, I think we have it.
I think that's it.
Everything's just getting a little closer, and you'll start noticing little details.
Let's make it easier for her. I use my hat.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, find your seat and we'll read the story. All right, I'm going to, I didn't need to go back to that. Let's see if here it is. All right, we'll go through the story. For those of you who were sitting and were not able to read the story, I'm going to read the story to you. It's a lovely little story. We're starting with Zoom by Istvan Banyai. There's also Resume. If you ever love this so much you want to cut up another book and do this activity, you can do Resume. We start with this picture, which when we move to the next picture, we realize that it's the rooster. When we go from the rooster, we go from the rooster. Now some children are taking a look at the rooster. And then we have a little bit farther, we're coming from the door. Now we have these children still looking at the rooster. When we scroll out, we see that we're in a village. It's a lovely little farm town village. I'm not sure what country it's from, but it's really great. And we have some more buildings that are appearing. Everything is coming into Zoom. And oh gosh, we have some hands. Those hands are touching this village that I thought was real. Let's zoom back out, and oh, there's a girl, and there's a sign. What does that sign say? Toys. We got some toys. Let's go to our next page. Oh, wait, there's some fingers in the top right-hand corner. So let's take a look. Oh, somebody's holding a magazine of a girl playing with a farm that has a rooster. They're really tired. I wonder where they are. Oh, they're by the water. And they continue to be by the water, and oh gosh, it looks like they might be on a ship. I think they are, but oh gosh, this ship has words in the sky. What is this? Let's go back out a little bit more. That ship is on the bus. So we started with the rooster, and now we're at a bus. Looking out from the bus, we get to see this big, beautiful city, lovely, and a cowboy's watching it on television. The cowboys zoomed out. Please forgive anything you don't like on that picture. We're going to zoom out some more. We're in Arizona, but look, it looks like it's a postage stamp. So the rooster's on the postage stamp. We just can't see it, right? And that postage stamp happens to be on a letter. That letter happens to be going to an Aboriginal people. The mailman is delivering it. And as we look back out, we can see that we're looking at that island from the view of a pilot. And the pilot is flying over the earth. And now we can see his plane. Where is he located? Over the ocean. Where is that ocean located? On the earth. Where is the earth? We'll just get it even bigger and better. And here we have the earth. Almost nothing. Congratulations, you guys did a great job. The point of our story is sometimes we're so focused on the top of the rooster's head that we can't see the bigger picture. We take a look at the thing that is our item, our rooster over here, and we're so focused on the rooster that we can't see that that's not all that we need to be worried about. That really, in the whole world, and in the whole life of experience, the thing that's most important is the earth. And even in the midst of the earth, we're even so small and so minuscule that for the Lord to be able to come down and call us his people is absolutely magnificent. But we sometimes get ourselves so focused on our own things and our own problems that we can't see that we need to be able to reach out to the earth. Sarah McLean knows that besides being a teacher, I'm also a professional team builder. I know that makes people laugh when they say that. It basically just means I've been paid a lot of money to be a team builder, and I've been doing team building since 1996, and she's like, I'm so glad you did a team building game while you were teaching. And that's pretty much my mantra. We've got to be able to see how it relates to us. And so when we're talking about the simple church, when we first started our discussion, we were worried about, we don't want to cut, we don't want to cut, we don't want to cut, we don't want to cut. But we have to realize is, what is our end goal? And our end goal should be living with God forever and building Zion. And if there are things that we need to take out of that to be able to get to that goal, that's something that we need to think about. Now, I know that's hard. I know that's emotional. I know that's a piece of our heart that might be ripped out, and it might be like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. But we have to be able to have grace. We have to have compassion. We have to be love as we get through this next chapter, and the next chapter, and the next chapter. So chapter 3 is called A Simple Church, an Extreme Makeover. The church edition, and this is the quote from the page. It says, we mean the design for discipleship. We mean the design of church ministry. We're talking about how a church is designed and structured so people can be transformed by God's grace. And they did, one of the struggles I had with this book was it was written in 2008, which every single example they gave was different than the way life is now, right? So they're talking about the television show Extreme Makeover Home Edition. Many of us might remember that, and so that's why they use this as their chapter. The definition of a simple church is a congregation designed around a straightforward and strategic process that moves people through the stages of spiritual growth. The leadership in the church are clear about the process, which is clarity, and are committed to executing it. The process flows logically, movement, and is implemented in each area of the church, alignment. The church abandons everything that is not in the process. And as that looks in a graphic, it looks like this. Clarity goes to movement, movement goes to alignment, alignment goes to focus. And this is the goal and the idea and the thought of this book, is that first we have to do those things. Before we can get to all the things we're worried about, let's go through and define some of these words and understand them. In each chapter, I'm going to kind of give you a way of how this is going to be laid out. In each of these chapters, they start with clarity. They'll give you the definition, so I'll give you the definition. They tell you there are 5 points to clarity. I'll give you the 5 points, and then I'll divide those up on 5 separate slides to give more information for that. So hang tight. We got clarity, the definition, the slide with 5 items and 5 items, and it'll go through each one of those. And then I'll be done, and we'll just be able to have a great life. All right. From 1 Peter 4, 8 through 10, and above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity preventeth a multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. So as we go through this section, I felt like this was really appropriate for us to be able to recognize that we need to make sure that we have charity and love for one another as we go through the process of trying to decide how this works for our church or if it works for our church congregation. All right, so clarity. We're going to start with a ministry blueprint. In the red at the top, it's going to tell you the definition that they give us. Clarity is the ability of the process to be communicated and understood by the people. So when we're talking about a mission, and I asked today what our mission statement is, we have it actually printed out. Do we know it? We ask kids to have a scripture verse memorized, but do we have our mission statement memorized so that we can live it and we can breathe it? And if we don't, is it because we don't believe the mission, or is it because we just don't know it? I don't know the mission statement, just so you know. I'm not really that great, but I'm just telling us this is what we got to do. I'm the teacher, not the follower. All right. Understanding always precedes commitment. So we need to make sure that we understand it. And before we can commit to anything, we have to understand it. Just like people were saying earlier, I don't want to have to, I'm worried about. Yes, we have to understand, and that will precede commitment. And the leadership must be prepared, must be clear on the process and be able to teach it. At the end of this book, they did state that they never expected that this would go out to regular people, And what I mean by regular people is they thought that leaderships of churches would take this book and then be able to disseminate information to churches. So it's great that Bob has decided that everyone should have all of the information so that we can make those decisions. So the steps to designing a clear ministry process according to the book is we need to define, illustrate, measure, discuss, and increase understanding. So let's go through each one of those. To define, we need to determine what kind of disciple you wish to produce. So that basically means what kind of, how faithful of a Christian do we want? Do we want somebody, when we say disciple, that's the people that are coming here. So determine what kind of disciple you want. If you're starting from somebody coming in not knowing anything, what do you want them to be able to know by the time they're at the highest peak of their involvement in the church? That's kind of what that means. You've got to describe your purpose as a process. That means in sequential order. So how are we going to do this, and how are we going to get from point A to point B? And we've got to decide how each weekly program is a part of the process. So every program that we do has to fit into our process. If it doesn't fit into our process, then we need to reconsider whether or not it should stay in our process. Okay, illustrate. This is the kind of people we believe God is. It should say are. Is calling us to be. See, it's a sentence. This is the kind of people we believe God is calling us to be, and here is how he is going to transform us into that type of person. They really want us to have pictures of how it's going to look rather than just words. I will tell you as a librarian, and I was saying this at lunch, graphic novels are far more popular than the actual writing. This week I compared two books, a novel, the same novel written by the same person, and the graphic novel, which is like a comic book if you don't know those words. And all the kids gravitated to the comic book, despite the fact that there was the richness in the novel. They loved what I read, but they preferred and would check out the graphic novel. So it's important for us to be able to make sure, because sometimes an illustration for our visual people is going to be a lot more important than the linguistics for the linguistic people. If we have both, then we're going to meet the needs of more people. So the illustrations should be reflective of our process. It should show the progression, and it should help us to simplify what the process is or the mission is, so that we can be able to get done what we need to get done. We always have to measure. In education, we're always measuring how kids are growing, how many sounds do they know when they enter kindergarten. The target is every sound by the end of kindergarten. How many do they after first quarter, after second quarter, after third quarter? If we don't measure it, then we don't know if what we're doing is effective. So if we're not measuring what's happening in our congregation and looking how are we growing our congregation, if we don't look at that part, then how do we know if our people have grown? We don't ask, we don't know. So we need to learn to, this is what Sarah said earlier, learn to view your numbers horizontally and not vertically. Measure attendance at each level and stage in your process. What they said was, with the simple church that we talked about, which was love God, which is coming to the worship service. After they come to the worship service, then you have the small groups, right? It could be new moms. It could be junior high. It could be high school. It could be adult group. It could be the women's group. It could be any of those things, right? So those are the small groups where you learn to love one another, right? Love others. So you get into those groups that people feel that they can love one another. And we want to see how many people move from loving God and coming to church, because that's usually where people start when they want to come to our church originally. And then how many people move into that? And once people have started loving one another, how do they move from that or transition from that to serving other people, serving the world? And so it's a process of, we start here, this is where the people come in. We move to this point right here, which is us learning to love one another, learning to work together, learning what other people's strengths are, learning what other people's weaknesses are in the groups that we do, and then how do we take that and move there? And we need to measure, do we have more people moving into the serve others than we have coming into our congregation? That's the serving the horizontally. Do we have more people that are in the loving others, and we don't have anybody moving to the serve other people, but we don't have anybody coming into the church? So that's what they're talking about when they measure. We want to be able to measure it horizontally. We don't want to see, okay, we had this many people come to Sunday school. We have this many people coming to church. We have this many people coming to women's group. We have this many people walking around at the prayer day. We have this many people coming to the service day. That's great, and then we can say, oh, well, we have 500 people involved, but we might actually only have 25 that are coming to all of them, right? So we want to see how many people are moving into the groups, not how many people are attending the sessions. Okay, this is the part that we're doing today, or hopefully we'll be able to do, which is discussing. Things must be discussed frequently to make sure everything is clear. View everything through the lens of your simple process. So everything that you're doing and seeing, you need to view it through that lens of how does it fit with what we've already said we're going to do, right? What is our mission? How does it fit into that? And then we have to surface the process in meetings. So it needs to be something that we're talking about all the time. It does say test the leaders on it, the people who are in charge. Do they know what our mission statement is? Do they know what our process is? Do they know those things? Because our goal is if we want it to be taught, the people who are in charge need to know, and they should be speaking about it and talking about it and living it and breathing it so that we can, just like we're supposed to talk and live Jesus Christ. This more is all about the functioning of the church, not the gospel, right? So I'm not talking about, even though I am talking about the gospel, what I'm talking about is how do we get people to grow in the gospel through the function of the church. And so we have to have that process in meetings. We need to test our leaders on it. And then we have to brainstorm new ways to communicate it so everyone in our church is able to do it. In the Simple Church, they have the same concept. They just create it and say it in a different way for the youth because they may not understand it the same way that the teenagers understand it, which is not the same way they do that. So their mission has always been love God, love others, serve the world. But the way that they interpret that with young children is different than a way that they might interpret it with older people. Does that kind of make sense? Anybody have anything they want to say about that? Okay, we'll move on to point 5. We're going to be done in like 20 minutes. Increase understanding. We need to articulate the process corporately so everybody knows it. We've got to share the process interpersonally between one another, and we've got to live the process personally. If I'm going to believe in the mission statement, I need to love God, I need to love others, and I need to serve the world. That's all that we have to say about clarity. All right, anyone have anything they want to say about clarity before we move to the movement part? Good. That's your joke. Good. I'm going to have Emma come up and she's going to describe it in the McLean way so that you understand it, because I know siblings sing together well and they probably explain things better too. All right. Anybody have any thoughts or ideas? Okay. So part 2 is the movement, which is removing the congestion. This is the fearful part, right? How do we get rid of that? So the definition of movement is the sequential steps in the process that cause people to move to greater areas of commitment. So how do we get people to be more committed in our church? Not just attending Sunday services, and we don't know if they don't come back because we don't have a relationship with them, right? How do we move them from, I came to church, like someone said, I feel like I'm home, I want to stay at my home, I want to build my home, I want to renovate it so it's so much more beautiful and better. So how do I move from coming to church to being a part of the church? Okay? The church's job is to place people in the pathway of God's transforming power, to design a process that partners with the transformation process revealed in Scripture. Only God does the transforming. Just so you know, I added that emphasis on the only God does the transforming. So we need to recognize that despite the fact that we can do all the work, the success of it depends on God's ability to transform. And if God isn't transforming our hearts and transforming our lives, then we don't need to worry about the other parts, because what we do isn't important. It's what we do to help bring about that transforming grace that God provides. Okay? Here's the steps to unclog the process or remove congestion. We need strategic programming. We need sequential programming. We need intentional movement. We need a clear next step. And we need a new members class. And for me, I was always like, new members, like, where do we get new members from? Like, are there new members? Like, everybody I see is all the same, right? So I always wondered about how do we do that? And how do we go to our places of work or our retirement centers, Ben? How do we go to those places and be able to say, come to my church, I want you to be a part of it, because what we have is so wonderful. You're going to feel fed and you're going to feel excited to be here. Like, how do we get people to be a part of that and want to be a part of that? All right, so in strategic programming, we begin with our clearly defined process. So we already have the clarity. We know it. We're talking about it. We're sharing it. We're living it. We're breathing it. We're talking about it with everybody. Not so that they can't stand us, but, we have a little grace in that. We choose one program per department for each phase of your process. So what that means is one church service. And that means, and then when we have the loving others, what is that program that we're going to do? That doesn't mean we don't do Sunday school. It could be that that's our grouping piece. And then we design each program for a specific aspect of the process. And we place the programs in sequential order. So for people to move to loving God, loving others, serving the world, how does that look? And that feels really like daunting. Like, how do we get rid of all the things that we love? Like, I love this and you love that and you love that. And what we have to do is really have a hard look at it and take a look and say, what are the things that we need? Remember, Rebecca Jean Cornish, Jane is my sister's middle name. Rebecca Jean Cornish is the book reporter. I am not the decision maker. So I'm just the messenger. All right, sequential programming. Order the sequence of your programs to reflect your process. Designate a clear entry point. People come to church, that's our first thing that we want them to be able to do. And then identify the next levels of programming. Yes, Christina.
Is we don't necessarily have to be fearful of eliminating. There's a lot of repurposing that can take place once we understand where we fit within this programming. So I think we can redefine, repurpose, and just have clarity in our programs of how they fit along the journey. And that way we're not scared of eliminating or moving, but we can all be sequential together.
And if we have that clarity, then we can say this program is part of our loving others, so that we can be really strong and knowledgeable about how we are going through that process. So it strengthens us as a people. It's almost like we got your back, right? So you're doing this program, we've got your back. Anyone else have anything to say? Thank you for that. That was a ditto, people online, from Becky. All right. Intentional movement. Create short-term steps. Capitalize on relationships. Relationships, not information, bridges the process. So making sure that we have relationships with people. We're not going to walk up and say, sorry, you're getting cut. I mean, we have to have definite discussions. And we have to consider the now what? Like, now that we're moving in this direction, what else do we need to do? How can we improve the process? Because if we do this and we get this set up and we have this desire to do this, it's not going to start out perfect. It's probably not even going to end perfectly. I'll use the correct the adverb. Sorry, I'm a librarian. So we've got to make sure that we know that this is what we're going to do, this is all we're going to do, we're never going to change it, it's just going to be this way, because God grows, and as we grow, he adds to our growth so that we can be able to get a greater measure of his Spirit. And so if we have to start at the very beginning basic level, that's okay, because the Lord knows the intention. He's going to add the Spirit, and we might grow exponentially in a quick way so fast that we don't even know what we're looking at. We need to connect the people to new groups. People stick to a church when they get involved in a small group. It said, I think I have another slide that says, new people are kind of our best missionaries, and I'll say it again because it's on one of my slides. New people are our best missionaries because they already know people who don't believe. And so they're really great at being able to say, guess what happens at this church? Come to my church. So they're really good missionaries and really good at getting people to come into the church because they're like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I need to share it with you. You need to come. I don't know how many of you have had children that have come up to you and told you the best thing that happened at school or the best thing that happened while they were gone, or they scored a goal in soccer and they're so excited and they want to talk to you about it. But that excitement and that energy comes from a lot of the new people. And they said getting people into groups or getting people involved increases their ability and their desire to stay within the church. If they just come and get excited about something and then do nothing with that excitement, then their ability to stay is not going to be as strong. Ben.
I have a brief scripture I'd like to read on the subject of new member process flow. From section 17. The duty of the members after they are received by baptism. The elders or priests are to have a sufficient time to expound all things concerning the church of Christ to their understanding, previous to their partaking of the sacrament and being confirmed by the laying on of hands of the elders, so that all things may be done in order. How often have we followed the new member process flow that we were given in our Doctrine and Covenants? Almost every time I've seen in my entire life, we do the baptism and the laying on of hands to receive the Holy Ghost right there in the same service, because we have front-loaded all the information before the baptism. Now, in the case of an 8-year-old that is, grew up in the church, so they've been going to church their whole life, maybe that makes some sense. All right. But we're doing that for new members too. We are front-loading everything. And that is not how that process is designed to work according to section 17. You baptize them first based on a real basic level of understanding, and then the elders or priests are supposed to have sufficient time to expound to them all things concerning the church, and then they have the laying on of hands to receive the Holy Ghost. It's not indicated that that is in the same service. So I think when it comes to new member process flow, I think we need to be a lot more conscious about what we're doing, and we need to be following the divinely revealed new member process flow we were given.
Okay, thank you. Having a clear next step. Here, see, I'm ahead of myself. New believers are often the most vocal missionaries a church has. They still know wanderers. They have a fire in them. Many believers lose. They talk freely about the grace that they've discovered. New believers who immediately become active in a small group are 5 times more likely to remain in church 5 years later than those active in worship services alone. So if we're not inviting these new people to come to our small group sessions or our shepherding groups or come to be a part of that, maybe some people aren't in our shepherding groups because they just haven't been invited. We have the group sign up if you want. Or there's one that's not appropriate for somebody, right? We can say start your own group, right, Emma? But the problem is, the struggle is like, where do I find those people, right? We're going out looking for them, Emma. We're looking for single people that want to be in a shepherding group. Ivan, and then Muriel.
So we have some single people in my shepherd group, and I'll talk to you later about this, Emma. I'm curious as to what makes a group appropriate or not for a single person. That's the first time I've heard that, so I'd like to visit with you about that.
Well, one of the things that happens is sometimes we don't all know. This is the part of the clarity that's important for us to be able to know what is happening so we know where we can fit ourselves into the puzzle. And sometimes it's just being able to come and explore and try. I would have loved when I came to Independence to have a singles group where I was, but every time I turned around the corner, and I'm going to say this because I know there's someone who personally feels this now, they've tried to reach out to people that are their age, and they just can't click. They're just not feeling that they fit in. If you've come from the center place, it's all well and good because you have grown up with a lot of people but people who are coming in from the outside, sometimes they're able to break into that, but a lot of times they are not. And I said it at the beginning, and for those of you who missed it again, I have no friends that I spend any time with or text regularly besides my adoptive mother, Margaret, who went to college with my parents, who's a close friend of mine in the church. Partly my fault, but I never felt anyone really reach out in that regard, or I didn't feel comfortable in the circumstances that I was in. And we have a lot of people who feel that way. And just so we need to know is how can we make you feel more comfortable is a much better way to respond to us than why aren't you in our group, right? So making sure that we know, and that wasn't towards you, but it's making sure that we recognize what can we do, how can we help, so that we can be able to make sure that you belong because you belong. And what can we do so that you feel that love that we have for you in the way that you need that. And I know that the gift and the power of the Holy Spirit is something that does that. Becky. Oh, sorry, Muriel first and then Becky, because I did call her earlier. I like to keep in order of the way I say it. Sorry.
I see the need for special interest groups, singles, marrieds, young children. I also see the need for, and I want to put a name to it, and I don't know what name that would be, unless it would be a care connection group, where it would be, and I'd like to see it on a weekly basis and not just once a month. And I don't know how that would fit in, but where a small group would be created, say on Sunday, or I don't know. At one time we had small groups here on Sunday mornings, and I loved those sessions up to a point, but then they became just kind of social chat groups, and the focus was lost. It wasn't on Jesus Christ anymore. It was what we had done the past week, and our pets, and the challenges that we were having, and it wasn't focused on Jesus and deepening our relationship with Him. But in that kind of a group, we had children, we had older people, it was a mix, because when you walked in the door, you were given a number and you went to that group, and you didn't know who you were going to be with that Sunday, but you walked into that group and you experienced Jesus Christ as He was testified of in the lives of those people that previous week, and what God was doing in their lives. And this one had a poem that God had given her, and this one had an experience where he was in the Word, and he brought a word that had ministered to him that week that was just exactly the word that I needed that day. Mm-hmm. And I would not have connected with him if I was in a sense, a specific age group or whatever. And so we need our older ones to be able to communicate with our younger ones, mm-hmm. and be able to pass that wisdom and that knowledge back and forth. And I want to be able to hear from from that youngster who is so close to having come from God and heaven themselves, has wisdom that I know nothing about, or I have lost because I'm 78 years old, you know. And so children have a wisdom that they can bring to it, and a clarity that I would miss. And so I miss the ministry of the young child, and I miss the ministry of the senior who is able to, and there's something that happens in that each one come from their own perspective and where God is in their lives, that is so dynamic and so incredible that somehow I think we need small groups on a regular basis that we can bring together to work to create that synergy that happens within the whole entire membership of the body.
Well, and the beauty of it is, we're not saying how it has to be, right? We're not saying it has to be this group and that group and that group. But I can say that people can definitely make, and we can fabricate or create those things around the needs of the people. And if I need to be fed in a certain way, maybe other people need to be fed the same way I need to be fed, and that we have the ability to, yeah. Right. Yes, how do we make it all work? Becky, sorry.
This is talking about new believers, but we all need to feel like we belong, not just new believers. Going away from the center place and going someplace else and coming back, you gain a new perspective. And the biggest culture shock to me when coming back from Africa was how much love and honor and respect we had in Africa. And then coming back here, you know, there everyone greets everyone, and you are a sister in Christ, and you are a brother in Christ. And those churches over there were started by individuals who loved the gospel so much that they shared with their neighbors and their friends and their cousins and their aunts and their uncles. And they're on fire. And then to come back to lukewarm or dead is really hard when you don't feel. We talk of love, but we don't know how to love. So I think that's something that we really need to explore, is that love. I just heard about a lady who has not darkened the doors of the church for a couple years because she came to an event. She was standing by herself. No one came to say hello to her. No one talked to her. She went home and never came back. Mm-hmm. Now, we're told not to take offense. We're told that that's partly our fault. You know, we need to go out and greet other people too. But that should not have been. That should not have happened.
And let's be honest, and let's be clear here. None of us is perfect, right? We don't all do the right things, and we can all come up with examples of this is why we left, this is why other people left, this is why we need whatever we need, because we all have those experiences. We also have those experiences of these are the wonderful things that are happening, and these are the good things. And I agree. One of the reasons that I love to travel, I travel a lot. I haven't traveled much for the church, but I travel a lot. And I've always seen the beauty and the grace in people. And I love to visit other places. Obviously, sometimes they're paid to be nice to me, right? But I love to be able to see the things that I learn. And I don't want us to sit here and feel like, oh gosh, we're doing such a terrible job. That's not the point of this. This isn't the point for us to be able to say we're not meeting the needs of people, so we're not being effective. What this is for us is, what can we do to work on the things we need to work on and capitalize on the things that we're excellent at? And if you are excellent at doing something and you are wonderful, that's your gift and your talent. Monica, every single Sunday I come in, Monica Rush hugs me, tells me how happy she is to see me. We have a conversation and we talk. And that's so loving and so wonderful. That's something that she enjoys to do. Some of us might not be touchy-feely people, and that might not be our gift and our talent or our skill. And so that's all that we're looking at, is being able to find, what group do you fit into, Muriel? What group do I fit into? How do we be able to use our skills and our strengths and our gifts and our talents to be able to worship God in a way that when anyone walks into that door, they're like, I want to be here and I don't ever want to leave. I have a story. I love a lot of stories. I have a friend that she's in Montana, and after I graduated from college, I encouraged her to come, and we lived on 1,000 acres of campgrounds. My first job was at Camp Allen. It was an Episcopal campgrounds, and kids came for 3 days and 2 nights. And I would take them hiking, I would take them canoeing, we would do night activities and night games and night places. I lived in a log cabin with all the people that I worked with. And Keita, my friend, I encouraged for her to come from Graceland down to work with me. And she came. And one day she came and she was like so upset and so disappointed. Her parents were divorcing. She didn't know what to do. She was like in the depths of despair. And we started to talk and we started to share and we started to testify with each other. And the Spirit bore witness to that experience in such great power that both of us looked around and we were like, we want to go spread the gospel. Of course, we didn't know where to go because we were 6 miles from the nearest convenience store and 15 miles from the nearest store, but we had no other desire. We didn't care about going to work. We did, but we didn't care about that. All we cared about was being able to be a powerful witness to Jesus Christ and of the work and the love that he had. So once we feel that power, and once we create that power, and once we allow for that process to come through so that we can create an easier way for us to feel that, then we're going to be able to have people walking through that doors, and we're going to maybe have to build a bigger parking lot. And we'll have money to be able to pave it, right? All right. And like I said, so let me tell you, the Simple Church isn't written by people in the Restoration. They're not written by people in the RLDS Church. These people are people about how can we be able to fund our pastors, fund our youth group leaders, how can we fund all of those people, how can we make money in our church and bring enough people in so that we can not only worship God, so that we can have a functioning church. So some of these things obviously aren't going to apply exactly and be exactly perfect with the way that our church works, because our church is unique in that. I can be Catholic and go to another Catholic church and they won't know who I am. If I go from Restoration Branch to Restoration Branch, there's a good chance that we're going to know somebody that's the same. And so we do have some unique qualities to that. So for our new members class, whoever that might be, we want to teach the process. We want to ask for commitment to the process so that we can know that they're going to be also able to go out and teach that process and then be able to have others help commit to that process too. All right, so we've done clarity, we've done movement. We have 2 more. Do you guys need a break? I see 1 yes, I see the rest no, so we'll keep on going. For the one that does, great, take a break and come back. We'll still be here. Alignment, how we align it. Maximizing the energy of everyone. And how do we have that happen? So let's go ahead. Alignment is the arrangement of all ministries and staff around the same simple process. So we already have what it is, we clarify it, how we move it. Now how do we align it? Without the miracle of unity, churches divide and ministry suffers. Why does the Lord say, I want you to be of one heart and one mind? Because he wants us to be unified. He doesn't say do the same things as the next door neighbor, right? I want you to be of one heart and one mind, and I want you to have that unity. All right, so the essentials to alignment is recruit on the process, offer accountability, implement the same process everywhere, unite around the process, and then the new ministry alignment. How does that work? All right, so recruiting on the process. People follow leadership, and if leadership is not moving in the same direction, then people are scattered. And that's why we lose people. It's critical to place leaders in key positions who are deeply committed to the simple ministry process. Once we make a commitment to our church and to our goals, we need to find those people who are willing and able and desirous to be able to make that happen. Because if we have unity, we're going to have success. If we have one person who's in the leadership saying this is what we need to do, and there are other people saying, I don't think that's what we need to do, maybe we talk about that person behind their back, or we try and create a group of saying, like, we like it better, it would be so much better if we did it this way. Why don't we put all of our energy and efforts into supporting that person after we've come up with the agreement of what we want to do? And obviously we haven't made any agreements yet, but once we do, why don't we put all of our efforts into making sure that they're successful? Because if they're successful, hopefully that means God's successful. It's critical to place leaders in key positions who are deeply committed. I said that already. I said it again. It's still important. All right, let's offer accountability. Leaders will present the goals to the entire group. The group will gather around and pray for the person's ministry. So in this regard, after they have, in the stories that they tell, you have someone who says, this is what I want to do, this is how it aligns with the process. This is how I want to be able to make it work. We sit and we pray for that person to make sure that they are feeling that God's love and that we're supporting them and God's supporting them. And everyone knows what everyone is doing and can see how their ministry process is being pursued within the ministry division. So we are praying for everyone at every turn. We're not just saying good luck with that. We're actually there. Okay, we want to implement the same process everywhere. We want to make sure that the understanding is increased, that unity is promoted, and families experience the same process. So every family is a part of that process. And then we want to unite around the process. Unity is best expressed in the midst of diversity. What's that mean? Well, that's when it's clear that God's the one uniting the people. If you have a diverse group of people who come in from all different walks of life, and they're all on the same goal, it obviously has to be God who's creating that. So we've got to make sure that unity, like it says, is best expressed in the midst of diversity, reminding people of the process, highlighting the contributions to the process, and letting people know their seemingly small act of service is a part of the big picture God paints in our church. New ministry alignment. Before adding any new ministry, ensure it's a viable part of the ministry process. Ministry expansion means it's geared towards specific age group or life stage. So, we have these small groups. This is a group that's coming in, and we see that this is more important for us to add this group. So we're going to expand another group. So maybe more people are dealing with divorce, and maybe we need to have a group for that, or more people are having children, and so maybe we don't have a group that's for people that have newborns, and that's what the expansion is. The addition is to fulfill a specific function within the simple process. It helps people move through the process of transformation. So if we're going to add something, we add it because we know it's going to improve us getting from point A to point B to point C. Expansion just means our church is growing and we need more groups. Addition is we put something new in because it's going to help us get where our goal is. We evaluated and we realized we need to add something because it will enhance our process. All right, we will take a break. We're going to come back because we want to be focused. So I'm going to give you a break. I don't have a timer on this. We're going to come back at about 2:25, maybe 2:30. Give yourselves 10 minutes. So mingle, walk, talk, and then hopefully you'll talk a little bit about it so we can talk back about it when you come back after your little break.